In this video, we'll learn to texture paint a character in Blender. This is a part of a series that goes through all the steps it takes to make a character in Blender. If you haven't been following along, this should apply to any character that already has a UV. Here's a character with UV maps similar to the ones that we created together. And today we're going to create an albedo map similar to this one. So an albedo map is all the colors that we want to see on our character. And we're going to create that using Blender's built-in texture painting workspace. We'll start by modifying our mesh to make it easier to texture paint. So let's go to our modeling window, go to solid mode. We'll create a second 3D viewport, and we will go to isolate mode with the slash key. And let's go to the side view. So right now we're going to close her eyelids because it's hard to paint them when they're all crunched up like that. We want to temporarily close her eyes, but we don't want to modify the way her eyes are right now. And we will do this by using Shapekeys. So if you go and grab your mesh, go to Object Data Properties. If you scroll through here, you'll see an area called Shapekeys. Shapekeys allows you to save the shape of your mesh as a base, and then you can copy that base into a key. When you have the key activated, you can go into edit mode and you can shape that key however you want. And you can toggle that key on and off. Shape keys are commonly used for facial animations where you can do things like turn on a smile and then turn it off again. Let's delete our temporary key. We will create a new key. We will turn the value to 1 so we can use it. And we will go to the side view and go to edit. The way I navigate, I like to pick a surface and then hit number pad period to zoom in. I actually have a hotkey set to my mouse, so it makes it really easy to navigate. I'm lazy to pick all these small surfaces, so I'm just going to click and control click to grab all these 4, and I'll go to select, and then M to select all the adjacent faces. Go to side view, and let's put a 3D cursor where we think the center of our eyeball would be, because the eyelid kind of closes around the eye. Let's make sure transform around 3D cursor is on and proportional editing is on, and make sure sharp is turned on. Let's make sure our mirror is turned on so we can edit both eyes at once. And let's check it. Yeah, that's working. Okay. Go to the side view, hit R to rotate. And I don't want to move the skin over the brow, so let's make this wheel smaller. I also don't want to pinch it in the middle of the eye too much, so let's just rotate this a bit. Then unselect that, rotate it a bit more. This doesn't need to really look that good. All we're doing is making more surface above the eye so that way we can paint it better. Go and rotate it a bit more. And then maybe that. That's pretty good. And this is pinching here, so let's also pull those down a bit. So rotate again. I'm going to scroll the wheel even smaller. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let's do the same thing for the corner of her mouth. So let's grab some faces here. We will grab, let's see, these like that. Go to select M to grab more. Then we'll grab some faces below her chin so it blends out that move. Okay, go to side view and drop a 3D cursor where we think her jaw pivots. Then we'll rotate this down just a bit. Select M and then L for less, and our selection gets smaller, but we still want them across the middle. Whoops. Then rotate it just a bit more. Okay. That looks pretty good. So we can do our texture painting with her face like this, and then delete that later and our face goes back to normal. I like to bake really light shadows in my skin maps. I feel like it adds a little more depth to the appearance. Baking shadows is basically doing a rendering where you have lights casting shadows onto the skin of the object, and then you change those shadows into actual color, so it looks like you're painting shadows on the body. So when you bake these shadows, you don't want the arms or the legs to be too close together because it'll cast shadows on other parts of the body and that'll look really funny. So let's move these arms out of the way and the legs out of the way just like we did for the mouth and the eyelids. So I'm going to grab some faces for the arm. I know I want this orange part of the arm to move, but I want the skin in between that and the body to blend. So we will turn proportional editing to smooth, hit R and rotate that a bit out. Maybe do that a bit more. Okay, that's probably good enough. Let's do the same thing for the leg. Let's grab all that. Again, I'm not being too careful here. We just we'll put the mesh back the way it was. We just want to move it a bit so we don't cast too many shadows on the other parts of the body. Let's add a texture here. So let's go to the shading workspace, go to solid mode here, grab the mesh, go to our material window, go to Shift A, SIMA for image texture, put that there. We will go to new, call this AUT for autumn and ALB for albedo, 4096 by 4096. We'll color this something so we can make sure it's working. Click OK. Drag this here. Go to shaded mode so we can make sure it's there. And then we'll go over here to AUT for autumn albedo. Okay, so now we have a material set up, and let's go to image and save as, and we'll put this in the textures folder and save it as autumn albedo. Okay, so now we're all set up to do some texture painting. I do want to talk about how Blender stores files. So if you see this texture here, this autumn albedo, we just created that, this green skin. You can see that there's this icon here for a folder. So this means that this texture we created is saved in a folder. This is the way computers normally save files. This icon here for this Tomcat UV map that we had previously, this icon here means that the texture is packed into the Blender file. That means that that file is saved inside the Blender file. This is nice because if you give the file to somebody else, they won't have to go around looking for it. But the downside is it makes the Blender file gigantic. You can turn on packing by going to File, External Data, and automatically pack into Blend, or you can manually do it by clicking Pack All into Blend, and this will put all the current textures into the Blender file. And if you want to undo it and put all the textures into a folder, you can go to Unpack All Files and use in Current Directory, and it'll put all the textures into a new folder. And then after that point, if you save the file, all the textures will be like this one here, and it'll reference textures in a folder. And this will make your file smaller. So I would suggest when you work with the files, work with the files, the textures unpacked, and if you give the files to somebody else, pack them all into the Blender file. I hope that made sense. Okay, let's go to our texture painting workspace here. We will go and change the view to 200 because I like long lenses better. We'll zoom out here and we will create another window, and we'll make this a shader editor. Okay, so let's modify the lighting in a couple ways to make it easier to texture paint. So the first thing we're going to do is change this shaded mode here, viewport shading mode, to have the forests selected. There's a bunch of others here that come by default. The forest is default, and make this 0.5. So this is not exactly what's going on in this. It's not exactly the same color as the painting window, but it's kind of close. Another useful thing to change is when we're doing when you have the scene world and the scene lights turned on. Let's turn on our lights here. We can use this mode also to paint, and we want to change something though. So let's disconnect this and go to Shift A, S, B, A, C for background, and connect that to surface here. So this is full white. And so this will be useful also if we want to really kind of see the texture we're painting. And you can switch to this if you want to see some lights, and you can toggle the lights on and off. So it gives you some options to look at what you're painting differently. Let's go to object mode temporarily, go to front view. I find it easier to steal a palette from somewhere. So go to Shift A, image, reference, and then we will find a texture to steal our color from, our color palette. So this will make it easier for us because we can just grab colors off of here instead of going through the picker and just picking colors. Pick our object and go back into the texture paint mode. Okay, so we have a brush here, a blur here, a smear, a clone, and a fill. So I use those the most often. If we hit the N key and go to Tool, you'll see we have the options for each one of these tools. At the very top, you can see we have texture slots. This is the texture that we're currently painting on. Right now it's Autumn Albedo, which is this green one. You can see a little tiny icon. So if we paint on the 3D viewport, you can see it paints on the 3D viewport. It also paints on the painting window. You can also draw on the painting window and it draws on the 3D viewport. So you can go back and forth. Now we used to have, let's see here, let's go to the shading, go back to object. So you can see we have two textures inside the shading window here. So there's two textures in our texture slots. We'll eventually have 3, 4, 5, or 6 textures for this skin material, and they'll all appear here. So if we have the wrong one selected, you can see if we draw on the body, nothing will happen. And you'd be like, hey, what's going on? But you can see it does affect this texture here. Let's Control C that. So just make sure you're on the correct texture. Now we actually don't need this anymore, so let's get rid of it. So we'll get rid of that and hit X, and this should disappear, but it doesn't disappear. So let's just go to single image and go back to material, and now it's gone. It's I guess it doesn't update right away. Okay, so make sure you're on the correct material texture. These are our brushes. If you click that here, you can see this will have all the brushes we have. So let's make a new brush. So click this here to make a new brush. You can't really see it, but it created a new brush called TextDraw 001. Let's call that A-soft brush. So I put the A there just so I can know that that's a brush that I made. Hit enter here. Go here, you can see, well, there's an F here, but there's a soft brush, so that's our new brush. Let's go and make that a soft brush so the name makes sense. Let's go to fall off and go to this this sharp little icon here. So you can move these points to change how the texture is, and I actually don't need that, so I'm going to hit that X. So now draw with this. You can see it's a nice feathered, soft brush. If you go here to the default one, you can see it's harder. So I like the softer one. I want to show you how to delete the brushes in case you have some you don't like. So it's called this delete. So I haven't found a way to delete this from here. So the only way I found to delete it is to go to the Blender file up here, open brushes, and look for our brush that we want to delete. Click that, then right click and go to delete. And so the brush is gone now. It changes this, this brush over here, but if you just click away and click back, it's back. And then we can pick our A-soft brush, and we've got our soft brush. So there we go. Let's put this back to view layer, make this smaller, make this smaller, make that smaller so we can have space to paint. Let's get rid of that because we don't need it anymore. Okay. And let's hide some of these extra things. Let's hide the eyes. Let's hide all these other things here. Hit M, character, and eyelashes because that layer is turned off. You can see we have our brush selected. If we click, say, fuchsia, the brush has the fuchsia selected. If we click the fill tool, the color turns to white because each tool has its own settings. We can drag this to any color we want, so we can pick the perfect color of skin. I'll pick something that's really off on purpose. Click it here, and it fills the entire mesh, so it's a nice way to get started. I find it a little bit difficult to find the perfect color because in the paint window, this is the actual color of the texture. In the 3D viewport, you can see the colors, it's just not the same. It's kind of hard to see the color you're actually doing. So you can drag this. I trust the picker or the paint window more than I trust the 3D viewport. So you can drag this to find the perfect color, or you can steal like I do. So this palette here, this texture, I know it works. So if you, and I'll give this to you too. So if you mouse over anything with color information, watch this window here. I'm going to color over the lips, hit S, you can see it turns red. If you mouse over the skin here, hit S, it turns to this skin color. So it's a great way to just get the colors you know works. Let's save it since we've got it. So open color palette, click new, we'll call this A-colors, click plus, and now we have that color saved. Let's save some more colors since we're here. Get this eye color, S and plus. Let's get the lip color, plus, and we'll get the eyeshadow. If you're better at eyeshadowing than I am, please pick a better color. And we'll get this dark color here. That's kind of it. I mean, it's pretty simple. So we'll go to our fill brush here. Pick our skin color, click the mesh, and it'll color the whole thing. There's a funny nuance with Blender. It doesn't. We've just colored this mesh. It doesn't save it. It's not saved yet. You can see under the image, there's a star here, which means this is not saved yet. So go to image and then save. Let's save it as image, save as, and we'll call this. Okay, it's already named, which is good. And click save as image. The star is gone, so now that texture is saved. So you can see I want to paint the lips and I can't rotate around the lips. So to do that, you go into edit mode, grab some faces around what you want to rotate, click number pad period, and then tab back into paint mode. And now we're rotating around what we want to look at. It just makes it easier. It's an easier way to navigate the texture paint mode. If I wanted to say go around the eyes, I do that, zoom in, tab back out, and now we're looking at the eyes. So we could go to our brush tool, click our eye color here, and we could turn on wireframe so you can see clearly what we're doing, and we could hand paint all this stuff. We will probably be doing lots of hand painting, but it's kind of tedious. Or you could do it the lazy way by clicking some faces. And let's do the same thing here. And then go to select MM. And then hit L and L. So you can see I've selected Usually the skin around here is skin color. There's usually some eyelashes that come out around here. And then back here it turns pink. So I've selected those faces. Then I'm going to go back into texture paint mode. I'm going to click this icon here, which is the texture mask or paint mask. Go to the fill tool, click our eye skin color and click it here, and now it's eye color. So we can turn that off, turn off wireframe, and you can see it's all colored, and it's pretty okay. You can see that it's too jagged. It's way too jagged. So go to the blur tool, make sure our symmetry is turned on, and make this a bit bigger. Make sure strength is set to 1, and just blur it out. Oh, okay. So you see that here? So I must have messed up somehow. I think it's because of our UVs are kind of distorted there. So go to your brush tool, hit S to steal, and then just color it in and fix it. Hit S to steal here and color that in to fix it. Cool. So let's go back to our blur tool and just blur it out. Since this is a stylized, non-realistic character, this is totally fine. If you're doing a realistic character, you probably want to spend a lot more time manually painting. Let's make sure the other side worked okay. The mirror's on, so it should be okay, and yeah, it looks okay. Okay, so let's do the same thing for the lips. Go to edit mode, zoom in, alt click, select MM, right shift, right shift, right shift, L to grab anything we're missing in there, tab back in, texture mask mode, go to fill tool, pick our lip color, click, tab back out, go to the blur tool, and just blur it. And this is our foundation. We'll be adding some subtlety and details to it later. Okay, that's looking good. Let's turn on the rest of our details here. Let's go back to object mode and go to our mesh details here and turn our keyframe off, and yeah, okay. It's coming along. Okay, let's give her some freckles. We'll grab our mesh, go to object, go to texture paint here, grab our brush, click new to make a new brush. We will call this A-freckle color. So I want to talk about a couple of tools I use a lot for painting. There is a texture mask here. So the texture mask, basically, it uses a bitmap image to create the shape of your brush. So if I had a red circle as my image here, my PNG file, it wouldn't paint a red circle. It would paint a circle. It would be a circle shaped brush, but it would have whatever color we have picked here. Okay, that's how the texture mask works. If we had used a texture map for our brush instead of a texture mask and use that same red circle, our brush would be a circle shape, but it would also paint red wherever it is. Now, since it's painting red, you can still tint it. So if you had a red brush and you drag this to blue, it would combine red and blue to make a purple color. You can tint the color for a texture brush, but a texture mask only uses the color that you pick here. So I hope that made sense. So we're going to use the texture map here. So we will click new. We will call this A-freckle. And then we will go, let's make this bigger here, down to this texture properties panel. Make sure our this texture freckle color is selected here. There'll be a whole bunch in here later. So a freckle color is selected. We will click open and then go to where we have our freckle texture, which is right here. So now we have, now this freckle color texture has this bitmap applied to it, PNG file applied to it, and we can use that to draw. So we've got blue selected here, so it's going to tint our texture blue. So let's make this white like that. And if we draw with this, you can see this this image, this scattering of white and gray freckles is the same as this image right here. You can tint it, you can make it blue, and if you do it, now it makes it blue. We don't want blue or white freckles, we want skin colored freckles. So let's make a new brush, and I'm going to make a new brush and just tint it. So let's go here, make a new, we'll call this, and call this A-freckle mask. Okay, so instead of using, it copied the last brush settings, so we don't want the texture, the color texture. I'm going to get rid of that. We want a texture mask, so we'll click new. We'll call this A-freckle mask, and then we will go down to the texture properties and highlight a freckle mask. Click on open and go and find our texture again. There it goes. This should update. Okay, now we've got that selected. So now it should mask out whatever color we have selected. So let's pick green here, zoom that in a bit. And if we drag it, you can see everything it paints is green. So that's what I want. Let's color it this red color. It's probably too dark. Let's knock the strength back a bit. So the freckles are too tight together, and I want them to be spread out looser. So if we go down to our settings, well, let's explain this here. So tiled means it repeats the same pattern over and over again. So if we draw this here, it just repeats the freckle pattern over and over again. If you go to random, it just kind of like randomly throws it anywhere, which is pretty good to use also. And stencil projects it, so it's kind of weird. You can control exactly where the texture is and draw, and you can see you have explicit control of where the texture is. So those are some different ways. I'm just going to use random, but I'm also going to mess with the spacing. So right now the spacing is rather tight. You can see it's pretty tight. I'm going to make the spacing like 50. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then let's increase the jitter. This makes it somewhat random. Okay, so that feels nice and random and not too dense for freckles. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my mirror because I don't want people to see that it's mirrored, and then just really lightly throw a few freckles. I don't like that. That's okay. That's okay. If you hit F to make this brush bigger, you can see the freckles get bigger, and it gets very slow to use. If you use F to make the brush smaller, then the freckles get much smaller. Or if you just zoom in really tight, then the freckles get smaller. So I'll put a few in her nose, like that. Maybe some smaller ones there and smaller ones there. So kind of random. And then I'm going to add a different color of freckles. So I'm going to go to the skin color and just make it more orangey and a bit darker. And then I'm going to go big and do just a little bit. Nope. Yep. Nope. Nope. Okay, that's pretty good. Then zoom in and put a few more freckles. Nope. Yeah. Then a bit right here. Okay. I think that's good. Just breaks up the skin a bit. You can see our freckles are pretty crisp. So I'm going to knock them down a bit. And I think these down here are too bright. So I'm going to knock those down more. And just kind of quickly drag the brush around. I think I'll leave the ones on the nose sharp. And there we go. We've got freckles. Let's make sure we save our texture. Okay, so we got her freckles. Let's paint her lips. So sometimes I'll just paint the lips a color and call it a day, and I'll use a normal map to create wrinkles. Sometimes I'll actually paint wrinkles on the color, which again is not really PBR style, but sometimes it looks nice. So I'll show you how to do that. So we've got our mesh selected here. Let's open her mouth again so it's a little bit easier to paint her lips. Let's also select some faces so we can use a mask. So we will Alt click and select MM, right shift, right shift, right shift. Okay, so we've got that. Let's zoom in so we're looking at the mouth while we're painting, and then go back to texture paint. Okay, so let's grab our brush here and make a new brush. You know, whenever you click new brush, you can't tell that this changes when this is too small. If you make it bigger, you'll see like it has a 001, so you know it's new, but it's kind of irritating. A-lip mask. This will be our lip mask brush. So we don't want the texture. We don't want this mask. Let's close that. We will click new. We will call this A-lip mask. Then go to the image properties here. Click on our lip mask. Click open and grab the inverted texture, not the normal, but the inverted. And I'll give you these textures to use. I used to always I've just bought these somewhere, and I would use a paid one, but I can't give out paid ones, so I hand drew this so you guys can use it. Okay, so we've got our image texture selected here, and we want to, it saves all the settings from the brush I just copied, so we need to put these all back the way it was. So let's go and mouse over and backspace. It just resets it. So I think I changed that one, I changed that one. And I want mirror turned off. And I want stencil. Here it goes. Okay. When you bring in your new map, your image map, you want to click image aspect and reset transform so it zeroes this out. What you want to do when you do this is you want to drag your stencil over your geometry and use that and paint through your stencil to affect your geometry. Let's turn our mask on here. Yeah, turn our mask on. Okay, so you can move your geometry to match it. Okay, you can do that, which is not very great. Or you can move your stencil. So if you hit, this looks, okay, so this stencil looks stretched. So I must have not hit image aspect. So try it again. Okay, I must have misclicked it. Image aspect resets the aspect ratio to match your actual image. So you could move your geometry to match your stencil, or you could move your stencil. So if you hit down Alt and then right click and drag, it moves it. If you hold Alt and Shift and right click, it makes it bigger or smaller. And Alt Control right click and it rotates it. Okay. You can also manually affect things here. So let's pick a color here. And what we're going to do is, right now we're on mix. So this basically paints the color we have selected, but it's masked out by this mask. So you can see if we draw here, it doesn't really do that much. Sorry. If we pick the lip color and draw here, it doesn't do much. If we pick this dark color here and draw, then it does something. Okay, so what you want to do is pick your color here and go to multiply. This is similar to Photoshop. Knock this down a bit and then just really lightly brush it here until you get a light indication of wrinkly lips. You don't want to do too much, because if you do too much, it'll look kind of funny, but a really light indication. So let's make this bigger and do that. Okay, that's a little, I'm starting to see something here, maybe a little bit more. All right, you can go darker, more on the inside, and you can just drag that. So it looks darker in the middle. Usually the upper lip is darker than the lower lip because the way light works. So again, this is not PBR, it's kind of cheating, but you can do that a bit. So you can kind of get a nice indication of wrinkled lips. You don't want to do too much. Maybe you can pull in some skin color and go to lighten. And lighten it just a little bit right around the edge of this top area. So make that smaller and just really lightly. So you can indicate the wrinkles. I think our mask is blocking it. Turn the mask off. So really lightly hit some wrinkles there. I can barely see it, but that's okay. Okay. We could also lighten the parts of the lip that aren't wrinkled. So we can go here and grab the inverse. And so these are the exact same image, I just inverted them in Photoshop. So you can do that and hit F and just drag across here. And it lightens it. So that's way too much. It'll be super obvious. So let's knock this back a bit, hit F, so this is bigger. Make sure we're on soft here. Yeah, we are. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. A lot of times there's a little bit of lightness right here. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So let's go to it's awful hard to see. Oh, so there's a funny bug with Blender where if you don't save your image, I'm going to save this as number 202. There's a strange quirk with Blender. If you don't save the image, it won't show in the cycles mode. So here we've got some lip texture here, and in cycles you can see it there. And I think that's kind of all we need. We don't need that much. Okay, let's give her some blush and eyeshadow. So we will grab our mesh, go to texture paint mode. We will grab our soft brush here, and let's go and make sure we've got the soft brush selected. Don't need this one here. Make sure we've got mirror turned on. And these are all default. Yes. Okay, looks pretty good. So let's give her some eyeshadow. So let's these eyelashes are kind of getting in the way. So let's hide these. Lashes. Okay. And then let's pick pick a color for her eyeshadow. We'll use this one right here. And this is one of those things that's just really hard for me to do. I don't know why. Eyeshadow's hard. Oh, I had the wrong color. You don't want to do too much. You want it to be nice and smooth, but you want it to kind of accentuate the eyes a bit. I know it's really hard. So I'll go light, really light with the strength, and just kind of slowly sneak up on it. The over the eyelid gets darker. Sometimes you can change the color of it. You know, make it a bit bluer or something. I don't know. I'm not the expert at eyeshadow, so yeah, no. Okay, I'm going to save this as image, save as, so this way I can blow it away if I don't like it. Save. Let's turn on her eyelashes again, go to object mode, grab our mesh, and let's open her eyelids. And yeah, it's better with the eyelashes there. Let's turn that on. Let's give her some blush too. So let's grab our object, go to texture paint mode. Let's go pick this color here, hit F, and do I have mirror turned on? Mirror, yep, okay. Let's make that a bit darker. Maybe a bit of color there, and I like to color the nose a bit of color, and sometimes you can add a bit of a real small bit of like pale blue, like a real small bit of pale blue to below the eye, like so little you can't see it. Let me see here. Yeah, that's too much. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's go to image and save. Okay, there she goes. She's got some color. She's very pale, but at least she's got some lip color and some cheek color and some eyeshadow, and it's coming along. Okay, let's go and paint her fingernails and toenails. So we will make this bigger here, zoom in, grab a color for her finger and toenails, and make this stronger, and paint her fingernails, and paint her toenails. This is pretty small. It's pretty close to the foot, so I don't want to overlap here. Go there. Then let's go. Oh. Okay, so I must have missed those. I missed her toenails here. So let's go to our UV layout and go and where did those go? Grab these again and unselect that. And we will move this G over there and then go back to our texture paint and paint the toenails. Okay, there you go. Image and save. And then she has painted fingernails and toenails. These are going to be pretty low resolution. It's a little bit choppy. Oh, shoot. Okay, so I wanted to go into edit mode so I can grab some faces and zoom in and focus on the fingernail. But you can see here I have key 1 selected, not the base. And so what that means is I'm editing this key, not the base, and so it snaps to whatever shape that key was. So if I go to base here and go to edit mode, it's editing the base. If I go to key 1, it's editing key 1. So I want to just temporarily edit the base so I can zoom in and then tab back out. Okay, so you can see here it's a little bit crispy. It's because the mesh is kind of a low resolution, and because these are the resolution around the fingertips is so small. If you blur it, it just doesn't blur well because it's so small. So that's one problem with this technique. However, if you were to paint it, say if you just wanted to paint the whole thing, you'd have the same problem because the resolution because the resolution is, what's going on? Oh, brush tool S. Because the resolution is so low at the fingertips. So you could paint the whole thing like that. So it blurs better. You know, if you like that better, you can do that. I go with the crisp method. It's kind of like your preference. So we've got her face textured, fingernails, eyeshadow. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's color her teeth now. So hide that, hide that, hide that, and that. Let's also separate her tongue from her teeth. So we will go to edit mode, hit L to grab that, and mesh separate selection, and grab a tongue and hide that. Okay, we've got the teeth here. Let's go to the shading workspace, create a texture for our our teeth. We'll hit new. We'll call this AUT-tongue teeth. 1K is fine because no one's going to look inside her mouth. Go to texture paint. And let's make a new brush. Click plus, click teeth map. Let's make sure this is default by hitting backspace. You can mouse over and hit backspace on any field and it'll go to default. Click new here. We'll call this A-teeth color map. Then go to the image properties, make sure teeth color map is selected, go to open and find our teeth projection map. Okay, we've got that there. Make sure this is on stencil. And it usually comes in distorted, so we need to reset transform and reset image aspect. Yeah, usually you need to click image aspect like 10 times, but for some reason it worked this time. Make sure this is all, we don't need a texture mask, and this is all default. Mirrors turned off. Okay, so I think we're good. So all we need to do is line up our texture map with our teeth the way we want it to look. So I feel like the teeth should be about that big. So I'm just gonna color this like that. And okay, so it colored the top teeth okay, but it did not color the bottom teeth, which is weird. And I think it's because if you go to object mode and go to the overlays and go to the face orientation. Okay, so somehow I modeled this backwards. So grab your teeth, go to edit mode, go to face mode. We're already in face mode. Hit L and go Alt N and flip. Or you can go to mesh, normals, and flip. Okay, so let's go back to texture paint mode. Let's go back and turn off face orientation. And let's try and paint again. Okay, now it works. Flipped normals is the cause of a lot of just wonky, weird problems. So if things are weird, check your normals. Now that we've painted the front, we want to get the sides. So let's go and turn on the mirror. So this way we don't have to do it twice. And then I'm just going to kind of like line up the teeth. Oh, let's hide this. Hide, okay. Texture paint. Okay, so just line up the teeth in the map with some of the teeth on the geometry. And then we'll just blend it in. So it's gonna go kind of like, I'll do the top teeth first. And let's get the bottom one. So let's rotate this with the right mouse button and right control mouse button and do the bottom. Okay. Got some little glitches there. That's okay. Let's check this side and darn it. Okay, so I've got some funny ghosting right there. So let's turn off our mirror now because we like the other side and reline this up. So I'm going to find a tooth to line it up with. I think that'll work there. And this is not very realistic. This is like, you know, pretty rough. But I don't usually sweat the inside of the mouth that much, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, line that up there. Okay, so I think the outside's okay. Now let's do the inside. So let's line that up here. I have mirror mode on, so it usually paints funny, but it looks okay. Wait, no, it's off, so that's why it's okay. Let's paint the middle. And then let's check the bottom teeth. Like that. Paint the bottom. Turn on mirror. So we only need to paint one side for the sides, and then line up a tooth somewhere and paint away. Like that and like that. Let's check the other side there. It looks pretty good. We've got all these little glitches. So let's go to our texture map here in our paint mode. And we'll go to a regular brush. That. Let's go to the soft brush. Where's the soft brush? Here we go. F to make it smaller. S to steal it. And then we can just fill in those spots. So this is pretty not super realistic. You could, you know, if you want to make very realistic teeth, you could do that. But I'm just going to do simple teeth. These bright little white spots might actually not look so good, so let's just take them down a notch. I like to make teeth where they just kind of fade out and look like, you know, they just blend in with the background. S, let's color these things in. This is a lot easier if you're using a stylist. I'm not using a stylist, so it's really slow and choppy, but it gets the job done. Oh, and let's make all this red or pink. So S. Let's make this a harder brush. We'll do the texture draw. Oops. Oh, it's because each brush has its own settings. So here we go. I wish this had a shift constraint like Photoshop did. Make it a lot easier. Okay, so let's save this. Let's check it really quick. Looks good. Let's go to Image, Save As. Go to our Textures folder. and call this, oh, it's already named, Autumn Tongue Teeth. Save. Now let's get our tongue, go to object mode, unisolate. No, Alt H to unhide everything. Let's go and hide the skin, and let's just go to isolate. So we've got the tongue here. And then let's make sure the texture is applied, the right material is applied. Skin, tongue, rough. Let's go to our shading workspace. Yep. Okay, so that's the correct material, because it had the same material before I separated these two, so it's still the same material, so that's good. So let's go to the texture painting workspace. Let's make a new brush and call it A-tongue color. Okay. Make sure the color is default. Let's add a texture. We'll call this A-tongue color map. Go to the image properties. Make sure tongue color map is here. Click open. And let's go and find our tongue. There we go. Make sure stencil is turned on. And let's get reset transform and click image aspect 10 times. Don't need a texture mask. Let's get rid of that. Which default that. Okay. Turn this off. Okay, that's pretty good. So we just need to line this up, and this is even easier. Make that bigger and just paint. What is that? Why is my tongue got a black spot? Is this normal flipped? Let's see here. Normal? No. Maybe I UV'd this funny. Let's check the UVs. UV editing. Let's zoom in. Okay, so it looks like this face here, for some reason, is just one tiny point, so that never got UV'd properly. So let's go and do that really quick here. So let's go to isolate mode, go to edit mode, go to edge mode, and let's re-click these. It's hard to see because it's already got an edge there, but if you alt click, you can faintly see a white line here. Alt click again. Oops. You'll see a white line there. Alt shift click. Oh, I meant alt shift click. And then alt shift click. Okay, so that should be all selected. Then go to UV edge, create seam, mark seam, and then go to face mode and hit L and L, UV and unwrap. Okay, so that's our tongue unwrapped. Let's make sure, since we're doing this backwards, let's make sure we don't overlap our teeth. So it was AUT dash teeth, and here it goes. Okay, so this is our current map, and you can see the teeth are there, so we don't want to mess with the teeth. So let's move this tongue map so it's not overlapping the teeth. So this is not a great, it's not a great layout here, but it should be fine. Okay, so let's go back to our texture paint workspace, lay out our tongue here, and apply texture. It's kind of weird with it half white-ish, so let's rotate this here, and that's good. Let's color the bottom, get the back a bit here, and let's go to object mode and check it out. Ew, tongues are gross. Okay, let's unisolate and let's reattach these together. So we'll click, Control let's check our modifiers. Subdivision. Okay, so it's the same thing. So let's grab these both. Control J to join it. So now it's back to one object. So Alt H to unhide everything. And now I think that's almost it. We are almost done. So I just want to go and tweak this a little bit here. So let's grab our face, go to the texture paint mode. Let's pick the soft brush. Let's move this over and turn on our mirror mode. So I feel like the lips are a little bit too big. If you look at the edge flow here, I feel like they could be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to hit S to steal the color, and I'm going to N to make more space for myself. And right now I really wish I had a tablet. This is going to be painful. I'm just going to knock back the lips just a little bit. It's also a little bit choppy, so I'm going to get rid of that choppiness too. So it's just really slightly taken back. I'm going to sharpen it up just a little bit too. Oh, this is really hard. Okay. This is so hard without a tablet. Let's color that there. Let's crispen this up right here. Oh man, this is tough. Okay. Let's take down this over here. It's zooming funny, so let's just grab some faces and zoom back in. I highly recommend using a tablet instead of a mouse for these types of things, because it's just really, really hard to get a nice line with. Okay, it's pretty good. Let's save this as. Okay, so I'm going to go back to it. This is 4. Save that. Let's check it out in cycles mode. Pretty good. I think her lips are a little bit dark, and I think she needs some more blush. So you can tell now I'm starting to noodle this. So I've taught you everything I can for this tutorial, but if you want to watch me noodle, by all means, stay and watch. I'm gonna just turn that up. Am I on mirror mode? I am. Turn this down. I think just a little bit more blush. And I think the lips are too dark, so let's see what color we have. We have this color here, so if we pick that one, it's lighter. Let's go with that. So let's really lightly hit it just to lighten it. In fact, I want to go and turn this back on and just really lightly make that lighter. Not much at all. And then let's add some skin color to it. It's a little bit softer, and let's Let's kind of bring in a fuzz of skin color around here, just really faintly. Let's make it softer right in the crease of the mouth. Too much, too much. And let's see here. Turn that back off. Okay, that feels better. Does she need more eyeshadow? Let's go to image, save. I think the eyeshadow's okay. That's it for our video today. I hope this was useful to you. If it was, leave a comment to let me know, or subscribe, or better yet, support me on Patreon. And in the next video, we will create a normal map.